Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel.
Republican Representative Joan Ballweg of Markesan is seeking another term in the November 6th election. She represents the 41st Assembly District. Representative, welcome back to WisconsinEye.
Thank you very much for having me.
My question for all incumbents, if you're reelected, top priority in the next session?
Well, something that I've been working on and why we developed the Wisconsin Legislative Children's Caucus in the first place is to try to get our colleagues to understand that an investment in early childhood education and supporting families is important to the long-term success of not only those youngsters but also Wisconsin. We need to make sure that investment keeps them out of jail, better educational outcomes, more successful as individuals, and I'm going to continue working on that program for Wisconsin.
Are we talking about things like 3K kindergarten, age 3 kindergarten, things like that, or what?
I'm even more focused before that. I'm interested in promoting more home visiting so that we do have folks on the ground to make sure kids are getting off to the very best start. Home visiting and prenatal care, I think, are important not only for our health care issues, but also for supporting so many families, keep those children at risk from being children at risk.
Do you fund these programs through the state K-12 aides or through the Department of Health Services?
A lot of those programs are coming to us through the Department of Children and Families, also supported by the Department of Health Services. I put a letter forward this year when our federal government was talking about eliminating some title funding for home visiting, and many of my colleagues signed on to that because we see that as an important way to support our families.
Well, part of this is the healthcare issue. How do we protect and expand healthcare in rural Wisconsin?
Well, one of the things that's been happening in rural Wisconsin, I no longer have any independent hospitals in my district. They have all now joined other larger groups, and I'm seeing, as good as those were, I'm seeing that there are some advantages to some of those folks being able to tap into their bigger brothers and sisters. They're bringing in additional programming for folks. We have a new clinic that's opening up in Adams Friendship quite soon that is going to be looking at behavioral health issues and addiction issues and providing help for those folks.
Does the state government have a role in recruiting and retaining doctors and nurses and other medical professionals?
Well, we have done that over the years. We've expanded the programming in rural health, especially to have residency programs. But as coming from local government, I see that that's something that local government and our local chambers, those kinds of organizations, also have to get involved in trying to bring those physicians and healthcare providers to their communities and show them that there's real value in being out in our rural communities. I hear that from many healthcare providers, from folks that are trying to sell their one-man pharmacy businesses, that they're not exactly getting those folks to see the value of living in the rural communities. They want to live in the bigger cities. They'll come to work, but we need those folks to be in our rural communities too, to be our leaders.
The partnership between state government and Delta Dental that subsidizes the dental clinics in rural areas, should that remain a priority in the next MA budget, Representative?
Well, I do believe that dental care has been kind of the neglected area of health care. We have some very innovative things that have gone on around the state, Fond du Lac County being one of them, where they're actually investing in dental care for youth on MA, and not just saying that they're going to help pay that bill, but help to organize so that that youngster actually gets to the clinic. The thing that I hear from many of the dental professionals, they'd be very happy to help in those areas, but they open up their schedules and then those patients don't come for their appointments. So we need to have that support and effort to make sure those kids are getting to the dentist to receive that care.
AARP is surfacing this issue. According to AARP, there are 578,000 Wisconsin residents who act as caregivers for family members or others. And so the question is, would you support laws or regulations that require hospitals to recognize and work with family caregivers when someone they love is hospitalized? Is this an issue you've thought about?
Actually, it's something that has come up a couple of times in cases that have come to the office. We do have situations set up currently that someone can formally get that background and connection. One of the things we did in this last session was to have that new type of agreement so that folks are able to not sign off their financial power of attorney or medical power of attorney, but contract with someone who's going to help them and advise them. So I think we're going down the track of trying to get that accomplished. And when it comes to keeping folks in their homes, our standard home health care professionals are also see that as a valuable access to have those family folks signed to, with their permission, of course, and with their interest, to take over those cases. But we do have some flaws in the system to make sure that there's a smooth transition and how those funds are paid over to those relatives who are doing the home health care situations.
State highways, rural roads, so important to your rural district. You've been a part of the caucuses on funding highways. We still have an impasse. How should breaking that impasse go forth?
Well, we all know that the budget was delayed a little bit last year. There was rigorous discussion between the houses
You're being kind, yes.
on how that might happen. I've been a proponent for the last couple of cycles. We've been talking about letting locals have the opportunity by referendum to raise their own county sales tax, and to have that as something that would be shared among all the municipalities in the county for the purpose of highway maintenance. I still think that that is a great option for folks. We do, we do the special sales tax for our, for like the Dells and Door County to help them support all the tourists that come to the area.
Tourist districts.
The tourist districts. A lot of Wisconsin is seeing those kinds of challenges, and in our rural area, we of course want to make sure our agricultural partners are supported, and so I think that's one way we can do it. I just received a resolution from one of my town boards that says just fix it. So I think we need to continue this discussion. Saving money is the ultimate goal, but I do believe it's time to take a look at finding some revenue source to maybe help out in addition to that local sales tax option. That would be done by a local referendum.
So you're not closing the door on raising the gas tax, Representative?
Not the gas tax, not tolling.
Okay.
If we can prove that tolling is something that would be advantageous to the state.
Local governments have been living with levy limits for 13, 14 years. Some local officials may have told you that hurts their ability to provide local services, yet it protects the property taxes. Keep levy limits or loosen them or get rid of them?
Well, at this point, I think keep the levy limits. Levy limits came into effect just before I got into office, so I didn't have a vote on that particular topic. But I know that once I first got into the state side of politics, there were a lot of constituents that complained that It had been a long time coming that it needed to be done. Now, are there particular areas that maybe we need to loosen that up? I mean, we've looked at that for, say, our countywide ambulance services. You know, we have some of those types of special needs that are outside the levy limits. But in general, folks realized that that was out of control.
You voted for the tax breaks and tax incentives for Foxconn. April 22nd, I think you voted to extend some of those to Kimberly-Clark.
Right.
If the Senate tweaked the Kimberly-Clark package and it came back to the Assembly, would you vote again for the? I'd
definitely come back to that as part of economic development purposes. I think Foxconn is doing great things for Wisconsin, not only in Mount Pleasant, but in Chippewa Valley, in Eau Claire, the announcement that they're partnering with UW-Madison, all of those things. And I've looked back at what WEDC has actually done in my district since their inception. And actually, they have partnered to bring almost 6,000 jobs in my 41st Assembly District. So this is something that I think is something we've done for a long time. In my time in local government, we put in a business park because we saw the need to have that ready when there were businesses that could possibly come to the area. And I think this is a real economic development tool, and Foxconn is one of the biggest ones ever, and I'm glad to have supported it.
The current state budget, as you know, dramatic increase, significant increase in state aid for K-12 districts. Do our public school districts need another major upper in the next state budget?
Well, I'm hoping to see if we have some positive suggestions out of the Blue Ribbon Commission that was completed not too long ago. I think the thing that I hear in my district, because I have half my districts that get close to 50% of their money from the state. I have one district that gets zero money from the Green Lake.
It's considered property rich.
Exactly, and but not high income folks that live in Green Lake. So I think that there maybe should be some tweaking to that formula to make it a little bit more of investment. But as long as we're tied to the property taxes, the formula is what the formula is.
Okay, you've watched Vouchers of the Choice program grow. Should it expand further?
I think we've not only had the choice program grow, but we have the system of open enrollment in Wisconsin. We have charter schools in Wisconsin. So we've made a lot of opportunity for parents to make a choice as to how their kids get educated. We need to support education in Wisconsin. I'm not saying that there's one system that's better than another. In my district, I believe I only have one school that's really using school choice at this time because it is a rural school, but we have a lot of students moving around because of open enrollment, which in many ways affects school districts in a similar way, and moving that funding around from district to district.
The debate over the next corrections budget, we have two prisons that were built in the 1800s. Do we need a new state prison, Representative?
I haven't looked into the situation of a new state prison at this point, but what I'd love to see happen is that we maybe do something along the lines that we're talking about for the juvenile corrections. We have inmates that are frail and elderly. We have inmates that have higher need for medical care. I think we could probably have a model where we would have some of these folks go into facilities where it isn't, they still need to be secure, but they would be more of a caregiving type of situation. I hear from constituents and some of my neighbors, because my district borders several of the prisons, that getting to sick call is a lot of people that are very sick, and it's hard for them to take care of those folks. It's something that I've looked at several times over the years, that we need to do that. We also need to enhance our training for folks so that they're ready to transition into life on the other side of the walls, whether that's has to do with addiction supports. We need to make sure that if folks are on some kind of supports or medical care while they're in the institution, that there's a smooth transition once they get out of the institution, and maybe take a look at what happens when somebody violates their parole. Is it a serious violation, or is it something that we could consider something that they could have just done things in a different way or different manner? So is there a way that we can have those folks that are on parole without doing some kind of violent, overt, egregious criminal activity, stay on parole with the supports that the department is giving them?
The debate in the Capitol over to legalize either recreational marijuana or medical marijuana. Your positions?
And my opponent happens to be the president of one of the organizations in Wisconsin that is promoting medical marijuana. I think we're starting to move in the direction of using the benefits of that product to help people. We've done that with the CBD oil. We've put in the ability to grow hemp, and folks are looking to figure out how to put that into CBD oil. I think we do not want to make another product that we know is going to harm people in the long run. Mm-hmm. From the standpoint of smoking marijuana, well, we've worked very hard to try to reduce smoking in general in Wisconsin with the issues of secondhand smoke and having that in the area of our youngsters. So we don't want to do that. We also want to make sure that we're taking the best of the research to make sure that that is helpful, and we certainly don't want to, I believe, introduce any other authorize any hallucinogenic type of products into our communities. We have more than enough problems with those things nowadays. The fight we've had with overindulgent in alcohol and drugs is something that we continually fight with.
And we're almost out of time, but do you want to highlight differences between you and your opponent on November 6th? Well,
the only thing I would say is I don't believe my opponent has a wealth of background, very energetic, older gentleman, very polite, nice guy. I think we have a lot in common that way. My attributes are not only that I have been in the legislature for a long time, and I do have am able to get around to do some things, as evidenced by over the years, and especially this year, the number of awards that I've been given by a myriad of organizations, from Mental Health America and the social workers and WMC, and now coming out the state public defenders. But I've also been recognized by my peers to leadership positions in the Council of State Governments, and hope to be, and I will be, if I'm returning, I will be the national president coming up in 2020. So I think it's not just the legislative perspective, it's the thing that, the reason why I was first elected was because of my business background as a teacher, and just having kind of an interest in making sure that our folks are healthy and happy and whole here in Wisconsin.
Thank you. Republican Representative Joan Ballweg of Markesan is seeking re-election in the 41st Assembly District. The election is November 6th. Representative, thank you for talking to WisconsinEye.
You bet. Thanks, Steve. Anytime.
Thanks.
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.